I left it too late again for going out for a bike ride. Some first world problems, no heart rate monitor, different bike, different pedal, different shoes, therefore don't have full over boots on. How far do you go out for a bike ride? What did you start out riding? What do you ride now? How far do you want to ride when you've got a few more miles under your belt? This is what I started out at about 13, 14 miles I used to do, and then it took me about 3 or 4 months and I managed to do 26 miles. I had a big break in between. I had a lunch, probably too big a lunch, and then I crashed on the sofa when I got back for 2 hours. It broke me. So I was going to do this a little chat about distance. A lot of it that I've based on my experience, but some of it based on what I've read and watch a lot of on YouTube. But anyway, yeah, so I was going to split it all up into little chunks and talk about each of those at a time. Talk about the nutrition, the food, the sort of people that go out and do these distances, how long it maybe takes you to get up to those distances. And I think that's a key point, is that being able to ride long distances or longer and longer distances is a balance of family time, work and fun time, and the fun time's on the bike. So the distance I was going to talk about first was very short distances. Now I wouldn't be put off by the name. I think these are up to 30, around about 30 miles. They're something that people will typically do, I think, in the evenings, go out and do a couple of hours. They're one of my favourite rides in the summer, to go out and absolutely try and smash a PR or yeah, after work. Really great ride, good for high intensity. And I think if you're going to do them, you might as well do them in high intensity. I think if you're just going to bimble around for 2 hours, you're probably not going to get much food. You almost certainly don't need any food unless you're on some crazy diet, but otherwise, as long as you are well fed beforehand, then I don't think you've got any problems. So don't really need any food for these distances. Hydration completely depends on the intensity and the temperature, so it's just a multiplication of those two things. If you're doing no intent, if you're not going to smash it out, and it's just easy temperature, then I don't take any. Well, I would take some water, but a small bottle, but I'll probably barely have anything. But if I was going to smash it out and it's cold, I'll have quite a bit, and if it's hot and I'm just taking it easy, I'll probably still have quite a bit. But if you're doing both of those, then I'll probably take maybe 2 bottles. And overall planning, I don't even plan anything. I literally just get out and go for a ride. I know in my head roughly where I'm going to go. I know my favourite climbs. You'll know your local area quite a lot, so really shouldn't need any planning. That's it. Anything else written down on my cheat sheet? These are your typical British roads. Look, I pay my taxes. Why should I put up with this? Thanks, Garmin. I have no idea where I am. As we talk about the next distance, short distance, which is really from 30 or 35 miles up to, what do I reckon? Yeah, it's about right. Yeah, maybe 55. I think probably about 55 miles. You can do these on sportifs. So if you're just new to riding, a lot of sportifs will have a standard ride and an epic ride, but they'll also have a short ride that you can do, which are about those sort of miles. Yeah, about 35 to 55 miles. I think it's probably reasonable. They're what a lot of people start out doing for the weekend rides. So it's a quite popular sort of distance for new people into weekend riding. Yeah, you're looking at 2.5 to 4.5 hour rides, something like that, depending on what speed you're at. You on a sportif, you'll probably get a break along there, and they'll provide some snacks or something like that. on those rides, and they'll be a fair bit cheaper as well. So they're quite a good way to start into sportifs, just to see what it's like and see what it's like riding with larger groups. Probably wise is to start off at the back of the group, and let yourself filter back until you're with some riders that are about your sort of pace, and then ride with them. Food, they'll provide some food. You don't really need to take any food. You probably don't if you're just starting out and going to take it relatively easy, but there's nothing wrong. I would probably take a couple of Trek bars, or a couple of things like that, something that's going to give you a bit of energy over a period of time. Maybe take some sweets or something like that if you need a little kick part way through. Hydration, yeah, I'll definitely take something. Again, completely depends on the intensity of your workout and what the temperature is, but I would certainly always take a bottle with me for that sort of distance if I was going to do it. Probably not anymore, because there's going to be opportunities to fill up. So short rides, 35 to about 55 miles, really nice weekend ride, which most people do, I think. Well, a lot of people do those sort of distances, and a good starter as a sportif. Right, crack on this crap road. Right, this looks like something out of a horror film. You can make a horror out of this thing. It is spooky. Derelict old church of some sort. That is spooky. They'll be turned into flats. That's the bike I'm on today. The Canyon, which I love, despite no proper mudguards. However, here's a lovely bike. But I'm not that keen on those wheels. What are they? DT Swiss R24. Not that keen on them. They are heavy in the winter, particularly with those tyres on, which are heavy tyres anyway. Right, so standard distance then. Standard distance is around about 60 miles to around about 90 miles. 3.5 to 6.5 hours riding probably. It is a longer distance for most people. It's what I would do at the weekend, what I think most people probably wouldn't do at the weekend. There are some out there who go out and do those sort of distances at the weekend. It's certainly a distance for sportif, so it's the standard distance for a sportif. On a sportif, you'll probably have 2 stops in there. They'll be reasonably fast people doing this. They've done a few of them maybe, but yeah, never be put off by distance and the people. You'll find that there's always someone slower than you. Food, you definitely need some food, and I would put a fair bit of thought into your food, because when you get to that 60, 70, 80 miles in there, that's where you're going to be running out of carbohydrates. Electrolytes, if you haven't been taking any sort of electrolytes or anything with a bit of salts, potassium, magnesium, all the things your body needs to turn food into energy, then you're going to start suffering. So you need to have a little bit of thought about your food. You don't have to go over the top about it. You just need some sensible food. Don't go and eat sweets all the time. Eat some fruit, eat some flapjack things, a little bit and often, maybe a couple of big bites every 20 minutes, or do a bit of research. So your body needs between 60 and 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour, depending on your body mass. I'm 90 kilograms, so I think I need 90 grams. So that's what I generally plan on. You need a little bit of protein in there, so if you can have some ham, a ham sandwich or something like that, you've got your carbohydrates in the bread and a bit of ham as well. So it just needs a little bit of, you can't be foolish about it, but you don't have to go over the top planning wise. Hydration, you clearly need to hydrate. I've said it before, it's all down to intensity and temperature. But on a sportif in the UK in the summer, I will take 2 bottles definitely on those distances if I'm doing those standard distances. Yeah, planning, yeah, definitely stop a couple of times. I would say you don't have to. Some people don't like stopping on big rides, but I like to, particularly if it's winter, stop and warm up. So I would definitely be going for a couple of stops in the winter. and in the summer I maybe get away with a stop, but just something to get off the bike, get your legs moving, stretch your back out a little bit. I need to, you know, I need to stop every 35-40 miles. Just getting off and just stretching my legs like I am now really helps out. I've had 15 minutes of riding through, basically riding through cow shit. I think the rules for that are keep your glasses on and close your mouth. Now I know it. Certainly in the summer, just the amount of flies you get downwind of a farm, you've got to avoid it. Yeah, glasses on and close your mouth. Anyway, where am I? Glastonbury, nearly Wales, completely lost. No, there we go. I think you're supposed to go this way. I think that's your house up there. I think these are proper gypsy horses, not from proper gypsies, I mean, who actually do move around the place. He looks more than happy though, got quite a few of them.
The Tailor of Gloucester. I haven't seen that one.
Oh, no, you're not getting it.
A lot of riders out today. I reckon in the first hour I saw 200 bikes comfortably. A lot of people out today. It's a lovely day. So the ride was going to go, I was trying to get the distance in. I'm trying to get 100 miles in per week over the winter and pick that up in the summer. So I needed about 75 miles today, but I'm just enjoying the ride. So I've cut it short, I've cut a different route to focus on enjoying it. I think the next one was the Epic rides. They're only called Epic rides because it's a marketing thing for sportives. They just look the longer distance sportives. They're from about 90 miles to about 110 or 120 miles. They're not epic, but they are long. You've got to take into account not just distance, but the amount of climbing that you're doing. So you've got to be pretty fit to do these distances, or just take a long time. The sort of people that do them are generally the younger riders doing a sporty. You'll probably find that about a third, maybe less, maybe a quarter of the people who start will do these distances. If you're going to do them and you're new to them, don't go flying out the front. Don't try and hang with the people who are riding S-Works or aero bikes. Pace yourself. Take it easy to start with, and then pick it up as you go. This is one of my favourite houses around here on the levels. They've got their own fishing lake, and then just lovely, and it's on my favourite bit of road. Really smooth, really quiet road. It's great, no hedges, you can see loads of wildlife. Brilliant little spot. Food, if you get this wrong, you're not going to get there. You're going to bonk at 60, 70, 80 miles like before with a standard ride. You've got to get that food right, and you don't have to be measuring things out. You don't need to be that anal about it, but you do need to eat regularly, little and often, and the right things. Don't eat fats. Pot kettle. Don't eat fats, too much of it. By all means use sweets, use gels if that's what you're going to be used to. Don't experiment with food. If you can, use the little tablets for your electrolytes, and they can be either isotonic, so the same level of salts as your blood, or go for hypertonic. I think it's hypertonic rather, where they have more, and that naturally makes you thirstier. That means that you'll naturally want to take in more water. And on planning, what I definitely do is have a close look at your route. You don't want that route to take you down a bad road that you have to double back and add another 10 miles on when you haven't planned for it. So if you're doing a DIY type route where you plan it yourself, look at the terrain. If it's the first time doing this sort of distance, then don't go for the hilly ride. Look at the number of feet per mile that you do. Personally, if I said, if you're going to start out, then don't go for any more than 50 feet per mile on your first ride, and then experiment from there. Go a little bit harder, but don't push yourself too hard on the first rides. Yeah, what I do is download the GPX file into Google Earth, and you can use the 3D side of it to zoom in, have a look at the terrain, have a look at, if you exaggerate the terrain in the options settings, you can look at where the big climbs are, maybe adjust around it. You can go to Street View and have a look at the roads. Loads of things you can do, and I've done a little video on that already. So that's an epic ride. Right, onto a main road. A bit of div nav, as we call this at work. I'm just making it up as I go along now. Bit of a climb now, so I'm going to go offline and smash it, and then I've got about half an hour into Sweets Cafe where I'll get a baked beans on toast. Lush. Long distance rides. So this is where I venture occasionally, and I'm trying to develop myself, but actually it takes a long time, I think, to get good at these rides. Most people will take a number of years to be able to do the bigger distances. Some people can do it in a couple of years maybe. Distances are typically 200 kilometers, so that's 125 miles. 300 kilometers, which is about 186 miles. 400 kilometers, about 248 miles. 600 kilometers, whatever that is, 186 times 2, and then 1,000 kilometers. 200, 300 and 400 you'll typically do in a day. 600 and 1,000 you'll do over 2 or 3 days. The group of people who do this are generally people who are part of an AUDAX club in the UK. That's AUDAX UK. And they're referred to as randonneurs. Okay, an AUDAX is basically it's not a race. You've got a set amount of time to do a set distance, and there are loads of different ways to do it. You can do it in groups, or you do your own that you planned, called a DIY AUDAX. So you'll have a set amount of time to do a set distance. It's all achievable, you just got to keep pedaling. People that do this are a complete mix. Some of them are younger guys, quite a few now. I'm not there, I'm in the middle, I think. So they're the younger guys. Yep, going the right way. What's the wind? No, nothing. Yeah, so they're the younger guys. They are fit. They are going to probably average 16 miles an hour over 200, 300, 400 kilometers. 17 miles an hour if they're lucky. Around the UK anyway. Obviously depends on the terrain. They'll ride around on all sorts of bikes, carbon bikes, all sorts. But they'll have some sort of baggage carrying. They'll maybe have a Brooks saddle on their bike. And you don't have to spend loads of money on a bike to do this. The really nice ones, some of the nice bikes will be titanium. I really like the steel bikes. I'd love to have a look at a steel bike. Okay, it's heavier, but it's more comfortable, and comfort is pretty much, I think, what it's all about. These people have to be prepared to ride in crap weather. They're pretty hard, I think, when it comes to it. Getting up in the morning, you know, and it's maybe driving an hour, getting to a start location for 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 in the morning, and then going out and doing 300 or 400 kilometers is pretty nail thing to do. You've got to be able to expect highs and lows, so you can have loads where your energy plummets and you just got to survive and get through. Yeah, pretty tough bunch really, I think. I'm at the stage that I'm doing 200 kilometers fairly routinely and quite comfortably. I've done a 300 or 330 kilometer ride, 200 miles, and plan to do a couple of 400k rides in the next year. Nutrition is crucial. You've got to know how much to take for you. Take that amount of food, how long is it going to last you? You need some electrolytes of some sort, whether that's through eating a bag of crisps or whatever. You can't survive on these rides on eating gels and performance bars. You need real food. And to be honest, you can't carry all the food. So you're going to have to stop at service stations or shops and get some extra food. So you've got to be able to live on a fairly mixed diet. So that needs a bit of planning. And I did a long distance ride up to Gloucester. I planned it really well on the way up. I got there, had some lunch, light lunch, head back, and I paid lip service to it, and I absolutely crashed. Realised it, stuffed my face with food, and it took me an hour and a half to get back up to pace. But I was right down low, not feeling very good at all, with about 70 miles to go home. Anyway, food's really important, really important. Hydration, that's obvious, you just got to keep drinking, but don't drink too much, you'll just bloat yourself out. The older guys, they maybe got a bit of a belly on them still, but I'll tell you what, they will go for 400 kilometers on their steel bike, and I think it's really impressive. I absolutely take my hat off to these people who can do these distances and just keep going. Now how they can do it is because of years of training. Their body's just used to it, they're comfortable on the bikes, they know what they can and can't eat. And another key point of it is speed and power. They don't race, they're there to do the distance, enjoy the ride, and they're used to hours on the bike. So when you do it, I mean, when I do it, I do between 14 and 15 miles an hour average. So it's about, what, 23, 24 kilometers an hour. Junction. Don't Prince Philip it. Yeah, and they'll ride conservatively. They'll ride their steel bike with lots of satchels and things that people maybe have a little laugh at, but I wouldn't laugh at them. because you look at some of the younger riders and they can smash some of the climbs around where I am in terms of timings, and yet they can do that within a 400-kilometer ride. Really impressive. This sort of long distance riding, you really do need to conserve your energy. It's not the same sort of riding as doing a sportif, where you come to a hill and you do maxi power up the hill, putting full effort, and then you coast on the way down to recover. For this sort of riding, you need to maintain a constant power. So a good understanding of the power that you normally use is a really good tool. So a power meter is a great tool. So I know that I want my average power to be 125 to 130 watts, and then I'm good. So when I go up a hill, I concentrate on my average power. I look at my heart rate, make sure it doesn't go into threshold. I keep a close eye on my average power. When I'm going up a hill, I back right off. When I'm going down the hill though, I keep pedaling. I keep pedaling such that I try to get as close as I can to my planned average power. So a different side of riding, really, different style of riding. Yeah, so that's power. Bikes, any sort of bike, but you need a reliable bike. You need to know how to fix it. You need spares. You need a backup plan. You need to have done your planning. So you need to have, I do a lot of planning for mine, and it's not just route planning, but I look at my speeds, I look at the terrain, I work out my timings. I've got a little I've got a little video on planning, I think. Yeah, I have. And in there I talk about timings. I've got a little, I love spreadsheets, but I've got a little spreadsheet that I use to calculate it all. And I hit my timings. I'm pretty good at that, actually. I think it's quite a good technique I've got for doing it. So planning, real important. And brakes, you've got to have plenty of brakes and stops. Plan them to keep warm, plan them to get the right sort of food, plan around timings for when places are going to open. So garages are great, but are they 24-hour? Yeah, lots on the long distance bike riding. So I'm just starting out in this really for the last year, so I'm a novice. Anyway, a lot of people outside today, loads of people walking, loads of bikes, loads of bikes. This is a great place for riding because it's flat in the middle, you get your pace down, great countryside, he's got great views, loads of little roads, and then either side, all the way around really, you've got loads of good climbs. Really good place. Anyway, I think that's everything for long distance riding. That's where I'm at the moment. But it's easy going from 60 miles to 100 miles, but going from 200 kilometers to 300 kilometers is a big deal. And going to 400 kilometers, I mean, I get back from a 200 kilometer ride, and it's not too bad. But if someone said do it again right now, yeah, it's quite big. And then 600. Whew. Anyway, that's what I want to be able to do. But much like I could barely do 26 miles once upon a time, and now I can routinely do 126 miles. It's just the next step. I'll get there. Stop for High Ham Hill, which is 10 miles to get home. The bike front brake is bloody useless. I haven't got a clue, it's just got no power. I don't know if I've got air in it. Yeah, my bike needs a little bit of TLC. The rear, when I shift down, it takes a while. I shift, have to wait, then it clicks down, so I think I need to replace the cables. And I need to get a cap for up here. Look at that. It's been flying up and making all that all muddy. Anyway, first world problems again. What I was talking about was ultra distance next. And that, I think, is anything bigger than a long distance ride. They're generally races, and you're really looking at 1,500 kilometers plus. These people are the crazies. They are the real long distance riders. Yeah, so the people that do these are the crazies. These are doing ultra distances, and there are two different types. There are supported or unsupported. So supported, they'll do the Race Across America, which is basically probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles, but you've got a support team, so they have aero bikes and everything else. Then there are the unsupported riders, which are the ones that really impress me. So they will set off at a certain point. They'll maybe have some control points they'll have to go through, something like the Continental Bike Race, and they'll cycle from A to B, and they've got to go through 4 points to confirm that they've been through there. They're not allowed to draft, sorry, not allowed to gain anything that someone else couldn't gain from, if you see what I mean. The unsupported races are the Trans-American Bike Race, which is probably the biggest, 4,200 miles, Transcontinental, which is about 3,000 miles, which is across Europe, the Indipac, which is probably the second biggest ride of them all, which is across Australia from Perth across to Sydney. So the Trans-American one, that is from literally across America, so it's from the Portland area into, I think it's Yorktown on the east coast. And there's another one called the Transatlantic Way Bike Race, which is around Ireland, which is probably the shorter one of the lot, but it's lots of up and down. They're a different breed, really. Really good athletes in terms of how they do their riding. So they are really efficient riders. They are keeping the power constant. So they're constantly thinking about power, constantly thinking about calories. They probably can't eat enough calories. Probably burning so many calories, about 10,000 calories a day. They're probably doing 400 kilometers a day, the winners out there. So calories wise, they just can't get enough food in, so they're probably eating eating muscle, because their bodies are now having to consume protein. They probably trained themselves to burn fats rather than carbohydrates, so they probably are trying to get as much fatty foods into themselves as possible. They've got a completely different way of riding, really, and their speeds, yeah, it's all about keeping your average speed. So if you stop, you lose. If you sleep too long, you lose. So you need to plan where you're going to sleep. Maybe you ride for 2 days flat out and then you go for a big sleep, or do you just go for 4-hour sleeps every 24 hours? And it's a different mentality. I think it's as much a mental race as it is a physical race, but they're the ones that really impress me. So food, yeah, spoken about, and water, yeah, it's obvious, water at these sort of distances. And planning, I think planning is probably more important than one of the most important things. Getting the right route, not going down bad gravel routes, getting as minimum climbs as possible, but keeping that maximum speed up, so that you're getting, well, you got to get to the end in time. Anyway, so that's ultra distance, and one of the biggest ultra distance riders out there was Mike Hall. He won the Grand Divide, which is a mountain bike race. He won the the Trans-American, who's almost going to win the the Indipac race when he got killed a couple of years back. And so Indipac didn't really happen last year, not officially. And he's really sort of one of the icons of it all. He's pretty much set up the Transcontinental Bike Race. So yeah, look him up. But they're the ultra riders, the ones that really impress me. Anyway, that's it, I think. I can't think of anything else about long distance riding or distance riding. I've got to get home now. It is starting to get cold. The sun's gone down. All the cars are going home, and I've got my local climb to go. Again, I'm not going to smash it up here. It's 10 miles an easy ride home now. So I hope this was of some use, a little bit of my opinion, a lot of it based on something, but my final little bit is it doesn't matter so much. Don't think too much about distance, it's about what's relative to you. So if you're doing 13 miles now and 26 miles is a big deal, then go for that.